Alright, Merry fucking Xmas everybody, and happy fucking holidays and New Year's and old years, and technically the New Year was after Samhain, November 1st, but, it doesn't matter. Yeah, what's going on? Who's ready to start this fucking, who's ready to kick off the end, let's just call it the end of the Gregorian calendar. I mean, it depends on, it really doesn't matter, okay? You want to be a witch and you want to fucking say the New Year's at Samhain, or after Samhain the 1st, that's what I tend to like. That's my beliefs, that's what I believe. That's where my New Year starts and ends. And I mean, I've worked at many jobs where their physical calendars are exactly that, so there's truth to that, whatever it is. November, December, November and December do have ties to 9 and 10. They also have ties to 1 and 2. So who knows? And then anyways, doesn't fucking matter. I guess it would be October would be 10 and November would be 11, right? So you take the November, the 1 and the 1 would be the 2, which is that's kind of where the New Year starts, but it doesn't matter. Anyways, all that shit's just random. But what I want to talk about, I think it was Ralph Smart had a video. I don't know if it was his most recent video or other videos, but it was talking about the spells are going to be broken, and there's some things in there that are true. But oh god, I hate when he talks about spells being broken, or spells around us and all that. I mean, the illusion that we are all in, and that we break free from when we start, whatever you want to call it, the awakening process and all that. When you become privy to the fact that, okay, I've been programmed, and if I want to actually be able to control my life, I have to reprogram myself with what I want to be programmed, and that the TV and all this shit programs us in these ways. I mean, once you become privy to that knowledge, then that's great. But if there's no spells being tossed at us to keep us in this, otherwise, if that was the case, then how would we break free from them? Just magically one day we wake up and we break free from these fucking spells? No. If I cast a fucking spell, no one's breaking that shit. Not unless same thing. Like, if it wears out, like if I didn't do it right, or if I didn't put a time limit on it, or if I don't make a thought form that keeps the energy going strong enough, well then, no one's breaking free from that shit. So, I don't believe that there's these spells out there holding this. I know words have double meanings. I know letters have fucking power. All this shit has power. But here's what you need to understand. Words can hurt you. Words can do a lot of things, right? If you're at work and you're scared of what your coworkers think, right? Well, then you're binded by their words, right? Basically, they can make fun of you, and that's going to bug you. So that's going to alter what you think. That's going to alter what you do. You're going to, like the guy fell down the ladder, right? You could have easily got someone to bring him over a ladder to come down. But he didn't want to do that. He wanted to try to come down his own self. And because of that, because of his own, whatever you want to call it, he ended up falling. Instead of saying, I don't give a fuck what everybody says, they can make fun of me for using a ladder to come down a ladder, which people would have. But if he doesn't let that shit bug him, if he says, laugh at me all you want, if he owns that and says, yeah, I'm a fucking pussy too, but watch this, and he punches a guy as hard as he can because he's a big enough guy and he's a strong guy, then he just turned that thing that people are making fun of him and just turned it into power, his own power. You know what I mean? So that's the power of these words and these spells. They only have power if we give it to them. So to say that there's a spell out there holding us in place, holding us in illusion, holding us into this matrix, which no one should even say, by the way. You shouldn't turn this beautiful world into this ugly matrix computer program that's fucking us over. That's just the worst thing you can fucking do. Well, not the worst. One of the worst things you can do to yourself if you're trying to get in touch with nature and be in sync with this shit and be able to affect your world. Well, don't go around calling it the Matrix and this matriarchy and everything and shit and an illusion we've been lied to. It's like, you're not gonna do yourself any favors. All of that may be true, but you're not gonna do yourself any fucking favors. You want the fucking universe and the world to reveal shit to you, you gotta fucking talk about it. You gotta fucking, you gotta get connected to it, Just shitting on it's not gonna help you get connected to shit. That's like shitting on Saturn and expecting you to open up your ground or your root chakra and get information from the negative pole that's within your body. You're not going to be able to be in touch with the negative pole within your body. You're not going to be able to open your root chakra if you're just going to shit on Saturn, the one who's rules that chakra. Not only that, but in your fucking birth chart, Saturn rules over a specific part of your chart. Saturn also rules over specifically for everybody. He's the lord of this house, or he's exalted in this house, kind of thing, right? So those houses, depending on what sign you have in there, Saturn has, a little bit of dominion, and things tend to happen Saturn's way. So you have Venus in a Saturn house. Well, Venus is going to act or do things more like Saturn would. Or this is, or if it's a house that's completely, or if it's a planet that's the opposite, like Jupiter in a Saturn house, well, then you might have some issues or whatever the case is, right? But you're shitting on your own Saturn, yet in your chart, your Saturn shows you where you're going to have the most karma. So that's probably the place where you're fucking saying Saturn is this, Saturn is the evil, Saturn's the Satan and all that. Yet if you were to look at your chart, you would see Saturn in your chart would be probably about philosophy or religious views or whatever things. You're being restricted by it. And so what you're doing is just being limited by where Saturn's limiting you. And instead of fucking exploring it with an open fucking mind, realizing what Saturn wants you to learn and rising above it, you're just going to be stuck and bound by it. So you can blame that on other people doing spells on you, but you're bounded by your own fucking words. You're making your own spells. The words you say right now, the words and the actions you do, that bounds you to yourself. So the only way I could see this being some type of legitimate, okay? And what I mean by that is the spellcraft that people are talking about, that Hollywood has over us, blah, 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 blah. The way they may have done it is by... Who you barking at? Go! What's this? Sorry, it's my dog barking at me, fucking bitch. She's a girl too, so when I call her a fucking bitch, it's not like it's a mean thing. She's actually a female dog, which is actually a bitch, so... But the way they do spellcraft you, they get you to do it to yourself. It's like what I talked about with what? Okay. Is our bedroom unlocked? Okay. If it's unlocked, she can go in there and grab one. Give me a second. Sorry about that. Boy needs a star screwdriver. By programming you into believing and saying things, and you perpetuating those things, you put yourself into a spell that you cannot break. So like I said, when I did the first spell, and I just basically, people are like, well, I showed it in my last video in my podcast. I played Frederick Xavier and Burge talking about shields up. Thing bounces off you and hits the other person. The other person's hitting themselves with their own negativity. So you're protected and you have no karma because they're putting out negative energy to affect me. But if I have my shields up, it bounces off me and hits them. That's what I did with my first candle. That's why Buddy fell off the ladder. But that's what Hollywood or whatever's doing to you, okay? They program us through these movies. Whether they're aware of it or not, I don't know. I tend to think they don't know about it. They're doing, I mean, somebody probably knows and whatever the case is. But what I mean is they program you to believe that you have to get married and all this. And they believe these are religious beliefs. And they believe through your teachers and all that. And then, so those people are all been affected, right? And then they affect others, and then everybody is saying the same fucking things over and over again that control their fucking world, their universe, and their shitty circumstances. Whereas once you become aware of what, like, I'm now aware of what's going on, right? I'm aware of that's a problem. So I don't no longer watch TV. They can't affect me anymore. Anytime I do watch something or I know somebody's trying to affect me, I put my shield up so it fucking blasts off my shield and hits them. You know what I mean? Now I'm not going to say my own fucking spells anymore. I'm not going to go out there and be like, well, no, you have to get married, or I'm on the right and Trump is right, or no, I'm on the left and Trump is wrong, and all that shit. That's how they get you to fucking say these spells over and over again. You're bounded by your own fucking words. You're going to go believe somebody you didn't do research on, and then you're going to start saying things. Saying that Trump is right, the world's going to shit, we're going to have martial law, blah, 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 blah. And now people say that shit, they're fucking casting that energy out there. More people that believe it, keep saying it, makes it a possibility on the astral, then brings it down here. And that's what I don't want to happen. That's why I try to tell people these things. Try to get people to evolve, realize that no one's doing it to you, you're doing it to your fucking self. Yes, they might guide your mind into thinking these things. That's why I said in my second last video that as magical practitioners, when the world gets bad and everything seems to be going to shit, we know that we focus on what we want, okay? By doing that, we don't give energy to these other things. And then we thrive in these hard times. And when I said something to the effect of, we don't focus on things that other people want us to focus on. They want us to manifest stuff for them using our attention. That's what media, books, teachers, religion, all this shit does. They want us, because we have power with our attention, our focus. That's power. Especially if you put emotion into it. Well, the more you look at the things they want you to look at, you're going to manifest stuff for them. So if you watch a movie and the actress becomes popular, she wants your attention, she becomes famous and gets money. Your attention fuels that for her. That's the way it works in every way, just different levels or metaphorical situations, but it's all the same principle. Anyways, I gotta go help my mom. My wife with a screwdriver situation, but I'll come back in a second. You won't know, but I'll be back in a second to finish this shit up.
I really didn't want to have to make a video series explaining things that people should have probably already have figured out already. I've been fighting making this video for a while now, but now I think it's time. I think it's time because the world didn't end, we didn't ascend, Jesus didn't return, the rapture didn't happen, nobody was enlightened. And hopefully now people can start to abandon the conspiracy doom and gloom stuff along with the new age garbage that's being passed around for truth. But understand that it's not my job to try to change your beliefs. I have no interest in doing so. Hence why I didn't really want to make this video. Because I could really care less. My job is simply to put what I know out there. And you either accept it or you don't. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other. Because I know already that the things that I'm going to be talking about are going to be lost on 98 to 99% of the people that listen to it. And I already know this. Those who are meant to hear it and have this knowledge will find it and listen to it. That's just the way these things work. So I'm not concerned with being popular or having the most comments or things like that. In fact, I disabled the comments because I already know that people will try to turn them into a religious argument or debate, especially when it comes to things of this nature that we're going to be talking about. And what are we going to be talking about? Well, we're going to be talking about magic. I am Frauder X, and I am a practitioner of Western ceremonial magic. We're going to be talking about the occult, which is not really what you think it is. For most of you. We're going to be talking about hypnosis, NLP, the subconscious mind. We're going to be talking about the Illuminati, which is something I really don't care to talk about, but eventually it's going to have to be addressed. And we're going to be talking about the real meanings behind a lot of the symbolism that you see around you. So we're going to be getting into a whole lot of things that are going to, hopefully by the end, give you a better understanding of what's really going on. And I assure you that this isn't stuff you're going to hear anywhere else. You just aren't. If you were, I wouldn't be having to make this video series, which I didn't want to make to begin with, for various reasons, for a number of reasons. So why hasn't anybody really talked about these things before? At least the true nature of these things before. A lot of people are talking about it, but the answer is that they don't know what they're talking about. Most of them. And the ones that do are forbidden to talk about it. Either through oaths, which as a solitary practitioner, I'm not held by any such oaths. Another reason is they don't want you to have the same power as they do. That's the easy and obvious one. But another reason is do not cast pearls before swine. People are not supposed to have this knowledge. Most people are not meant to have it. It's forbidden knowledge for a reason. Because absolute power corrupts absolutely. But we see that already today. And the final reason is one doesn't talk about magic unless they want to screw up their magic. And we'll get more into the reason why that is a bit further down the road. And because there's just so much that it's difficult to put it out there and explain it. You just can't put everything out there all at once or it would do you more harm than good. And that's the truth. Because you have to have a certain basic understanding of things to be able to get into other things. This is why it takes years of people practicing to get to a level where they have a complete understanding of everything that they're doing. And hopefully it won't take that long. But it's going to take a little bit to get into some of this. And don't feel you have to agree with everything that I'm saying or disagree with everything that I'm saying. See, that's one of the first things we're going to get into is this whole duality, polarity thing, because that's a very, very important piece to all of this. Because how are you going to learn anything if you only listen to the things that you already agree with? You're not learning anything that way. And if you disagree with something, people have a tendency to throw out the entire thing. Well, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Hell, if I did that, I wouldn't have nearly the amount of knowledge on this stuff as I do now. There's been many things that I haven't agreed with at first. And then later on, down the road, you just come into a note, you get an understanding, and you're like, whoa, okay, now I get it. So you don't have to agree with everything that I'm saying or even have a complete understanding of these things. Just set them aside for later, and maybe you'll get that flash of insight. But this isn't a path for everyone. It's a very difficult path, but the most difficult paths have the greatest rewards. But there is a warning attached with these lessons, and it's not one to be taken lightly. And that warning is you may have trouble relating to other people by the end of all this and the things that they value. So just keep that in mind, because it may not sound like much, but trust me, it's a lot when you have difficulty relating to the things that people are talking about that really just don't seem to matter anymore. Yeah, you'll see when you get there, but I'm going to be treating this as a school. There may be some assignments to either reading or, to watch a video, things of that nature. Most aren't going to make it through. Most are going to fail miserably. In fact, most probably haven't even made it this far in the video. And that's by design. By drawing out this intro to the channel and this video series, I'm weeding out the people with no patience. Because I don't want them to have this knowledge. Because they're not going to make it anyway. And it's said that the teacher takes on a part of the karma of his students. And I don't want the people with no patience taking shortcuts, getting themselves into trouble, and then passing on part of that karma to me. I don't want that. But if one or two people do fairly well, then I'll be satisfied. I'll be happy with that. So if you have made it this far, listening to me ramble on in this video, you've done fairly well with this little test of patience right out of the gate. So give yourself a pat on the back.
All right, so it's a new day. I even know more of the same shit. So what you just heard prior to this was me talking. What you just heard prior to this was Frater Xavier, the man, the legend, the one. I don't know, at least 33 or more % of the reason of why I've came and got to where I've gotten. If it wouldn't have been for him, I mean, there's a lot of things that led up to me finding him. I was on a truth / spiritual / trying to figure shit out during my Saturn return kind of journey. 5 years ago, 4 years, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. 34 years old, so it was around 29 to 30 mark, where I was fucking trying to figure this shit out when I was at home with my daughter. And then I found Frater probably when I was like 30, a year later, when I was 31, and that was what gave me order. So, you know, like they say, like to appease Saturn, you have to be organized and structure. You know, he likes routine, ritual. He likes, what is it called? Like, your holiday suppers, your holiday dinners. What the fuck's that called? I can't think of the name of it. Tradition, holiday tradition. Excuse me. He likes tradition and all that. So before this, it was just all scattered, right? I didn't know what to watch. I was watching whatever I fucking felt like watching, And then I found him, and then I watched his series, and then I got the book he promoted. I started working on football, and then I found some kind of structure, which would probably be Saturn, and then I started working on that. But now, like yesterday, I didn't know what the fuck I was going to talk about, but I was still going to finish talking about what I was talking about, the spells, how people say Hollywood cast spells on us. I'm going to get into some more spell stuff, obviously. I'm even going to say something that, like, affirmations is a type of spell work. I'm going to say that. I'm going to go that far. I'm going to fucking say that affirmations is a type of fucking spell work. And it is. I'm going to explain that, and I'll say why. But more than that, now that I know what I want to have a direction to this video. It's not December 31st yet. But we're close. We're like, what, the 27th today? I think yesterday was Boxing Day, so today would be the 27th. 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st. 4 days away. This video, as you can see in the thumbnail, was December 31st, 2012. Okay? That's when Frater published this. And as you heard, the rapture hasn't happened. There's no doomsday shit. No one ascended. No one was enlightened and all this shit. Because around that time, there was a whole lot of bullshit happening. And Frater was practicing ceremonial magic for a while at this point, but was doing it on his own, out of the book Kabbalah, Great Self-Transformation, maybe doing his own research and all that. And according to him, if you watch the series, he was nagged over and over and over again by his subconscious, by his mind, to start producing, start making videos. Hence why he was able to never even show his face to this day. I have 60 subscribers. This guy's got 60,000 subscribers. 60.4. And I'm grateful for every one of my subscribers. By all means, don't ever think I'm not when I say stuff like that. I'm just comparing. When he made this video, he probably didn't have a single subscriber. And he said, if one or two people do fairly well, I'll be happy. Well, he's making programs. He's making money hand over fist. By his own words, he's making 3 fucking figures now, And that's why he had some tax problems, probably about 2 years after that video you just heard was made. He started having tax problems because he made a ton of money, 3 figures. A lot of his money was from his programs, and he had nothing he could claim, like tax-wise. So he made a lot of money, and he had no way to tax it. So the taxes were coming after him. He had to pay so it was like 2 figures, right? So like somewhere 10, 20, 30 grand in taxes he had to pay back. That's a lot of money. Or maybe it was even 3 figures, I don't know. I know he says he's making 3 figures, though. And then one of his points. The point is, though, he did fairly well. He followed that inner voice in his head saying, you got to teach this shit. You got to talk about it. You know what you're doing. There's all these people out there pretending they know what they're doing. They're misleading people. He listened to that voice. As a result of listening to that voice, many people, myself included, followed his direction, took the book he promotes, took his lessons, and did the work. And followed his shit, and then started buying his programs. As a result of that, Frater Xavier entered the law of compensation. He offered value on his channel. He started making programs, charging people for his programs. But within those programs, he taught people how to manifest money using spells, using magic rituals, sigils, all these things. They all work. So you can listen to people that say sigils are bullshit, affirmations are bullshit, spell work is bullshit, West ceremonial magic or the Western magic shit is all horse shit. But I'm here to tell you that this man is making a fucking healthy living off of it. And it all started by following that voice told him he had to start teaching, and he didn't want to, but he did it anyways. And when he did that, he is now probably so happy he did that. 2012 to 2021 is, well, we're 2020 right now, but we're almost 2021, right? And the world's still here. Nothing's happened yet. We're not fucking dead. You know what I mean? All this horseshit about all these raptor scenarios. I mean, this has been since 2012. Right now is the closest any of these doomsday predictions have ever been to actually having something concrete. There was a lot of stretches people had to make. This is why you heard all the ridiculous shit about eating babies and alien abductions and all these different crazy things and martial law this and this is what these, you know what I mean? All these different things. It was a stretch. But now we actually have a virus going around harming people if they are not particularly physically strong, have a healthy immune system, or sick. Because maybe you have a healthy immune system, but maybe you got a couple different sicknesses going on in you, and then you get that bad boy. Well, then maybe something bad happened. I don't know. I can't tell you for sure. I don't know anybody who's had it. I don't know anybody who's died from it. I don't know anybody. Even the people in my town that have had it, I don't know. There's been some elderly people on the outskirts or in the old folks' homes that got it and passed away, and that's about all I know. But apparently this new strain is in Toronto too now. The one that was in... So we have this vaccination stuff coming out, right? Everybody had to get vaccinated. Well, now we have the second strain of COVID, was just spotted in the UK, which was predicted. Like, we all knew they were going to have a strain number 2, and they just dropped it. And it just gets dropped whenever the vaccinations are ready to give to people. They drop it. So now all the vaccinations that were created for coronavirus number 1 will not work for coronavirus number 2. And it was in the UK, and apparently now it's in Toronto, which means it's going to go, if it hasn't already came from the States to Canada, well, now it's going to go from Canada to the States. One of those two, right? And it doesn't take long for that to spread everywhere. And I'm telling you, it has more to do with the mind. These things can infect your mind. If your mind thinks you have coronavirus, it's in the collective. That for coronavirus was created by something, whether it's actually created, Mother Nature, whatever the case is. But your mind can give enough energy to anything to make it happen in your reality. Okay, so you really gotta protect this number 1. But anyway, so I wanted to play that because it's fitting. We're fucking almost 9 years later since he made this, right? It's gonna be 2021. He made this in 2012. Okay, technically 2012 to 2021 is like a decade, right? So 2012, that whole year. 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and then 2021. Man, it's the whole year though. But Frederick Xavier's on the precipice, on the edge of his 10th year, okay? At the end of this year would be his 10th year. So the starting of 2022 is technically, well, no, 2021, December 31st, would be the 10-year mark for Frederick Xavier. And right now it's been 9 years. And I say a lot of this stuff because I don't want people to ever think I'm stealing his information to promote my channel to get hits and views. It's never been about that, okay? I don't care if I have a big or small following. It would be great to have a big following. It would be great to make money off of this and whatever else, but it's not my goal at this time. You know what I mean? That is not my goal. My goal is just to get information out that's helped me progress. The things that I do personally that help me progress, and where I get the information that helps me. A lot of the ideas I have that may not be the same as Frederick Xavier's still came from Frederick Xavier because I listened to him, and then his information with my different way of thinking ended up being some type of different, slightly variation of a ritual or whatever the case is. So even if it's not the same that he does, everything I do has technically came from him and what he promotes, and Birch, shit like that, right? You always hear me mention Birch, Kabbalah, Great Worker, Self-Transformation, and Frederick Xavier, probably the 3 most people. And then obviously Thunder Wizard, because he's kind of like, I wouldn't say he's an enemy, but he fills that role of someone who I think, because for me to just come out here and tell you that people have infiltrated the spiritual community without giving you examples, to me would just be like a bunch of hot water and nothing to back it up. And I'm not saying Thunder Wizard's a fraud, because I don't think that. But when he does come out here and actively shits on other traditions that he's never practiced, so he doesn't have a working knowledge of them, and just to say that they don't work and you should do my way, to me that's not infiltration per se, but it is the enemy. It's like, because at least Christianity and people like that who are opposing magic, it's because they don't believe in it, it doesn't work, or it's because God told you not to do it. So and then someone like the Wizard who is against Christianity, well, technically all these other spiritual traditions could be his allies, but then he goes and craps on them. Now, I know he's necessarily crapping on other people that are probably the infiltrators, but there's still a lot of like people like Frederick Xavier, who's went from in 2012 to now, he's making a ton of cash. You know, he's got 3 times his subscribers as Thunder Wizard. And I'm not saying that's good or bad or better or a way to judge anything. I'm just saying he actively shits on Western magic. And yet, Frederick Xavier, that's what he does, promotes, and he is arguably more successful than him. So when I see someone like that, it tells me, like, what the fuck, man? And it raises these red flags in my head, like, maybe he isn't legit. Maybe he isn't completely 100% being real. Like, or, like I said, he's in scarcity. He's scared because he wants people to do his tradition because he knows his tradition, and it works well, his tradition. And then he hears people like me or whoever else talking about this stuff and how it's easier, and you don't have to sit and do all these different things that he's had to do to get where he is. And maybe he's like, well, instead of just saying, well, if that stuff doesn't work for you guys, try my way. Because I tried that stuff, maybe, probably not a lot, but, because, I mean, I think anybody can do this stuff. But anyways, because basically it comes down to just putting a symbolic suggestion into your subconscious. So, what I'm trying to do, I'm not trying to get powers. I'm not trying to see spirits or talk to spirits, although I have. I'm not trying to open my third eye. I'm not trying to be able to fucking have lightning come out of my hands and kill people or do these amazing feats. All I'm trying to do is put a suggestion into that part of my body, that part of my being that controls my outside circumstances. Something within me controls my outside of me, right? As above, so below. That whole as within, so without. As the universe, soul to soul, okay? Means they're both connected, they're both the same. But if you want to affect the outside of you, you have to change the inside. You always have to transform within. If you transform yourself, you transform your outer self, right? Everything around me is a part of me. And you can say, well, what about your wife? My wife is part of me. We're the same person, technically, but we're 2 different people. You know, but we're both extensions of the universe. We're both extensions of the all, the God. She's part of that same being. That person you hate, Donald Trump, everybody's fucking hating on right now, all part of the all part of the God. And people can say, no, they're reptilians and aliens. It's like, well, that's the point of that. It's like you can be spiritual, but hate people. And that's not right, because that's bullshit. Even if they're an alien or reptilian from some other fucking place, they're still part of the all. I hate to tell you that, people. So if your goal is to give a personification or alienate or turn fucking Donald Trump into some alien or some archon or some inorganic being, whatever the fuck it is out there, okay? It's still part of the fucking Godhead, the universe. It was created for a purpose. Maybe its purpose is opposition, and to see if you can overcome that opposition instead of just shitting on it. Because if you're going to take your opposition and just fight your opposition and pretend to be spiritual and shit on them for fighting and causing all this war, yet you're going to use war and fighting to conquer that person. It's like, well, you're no different. You're the same fucking thing, so you fucking fail. But maybe the opposition's there for you to fucking get above it. Realize that you're not so different from that. And that there's something more to this than just what you've always seen. Just opposition, just bullshit, just aliens and spiritual warfare and all this bullshit. That's horseshit. The spiritual warfare is created within us. The people that think their religion is right, going against the people that are trying to figure out their own religion for themselves because they know that religion is not right, or at least not right for them. That's the spiritual warfare. It's not created in the heavens. It's not created by aliens or archons or inorganic beings. Because, anything that's created, everything that's created, from the plastic on your phone, to the metal in your phone, to the rocks, to the earth, everything is created by us. We are created by the all. Everything's created by the all. You can say, that's not true. Like, yeah, it is. If we're extensions of the all, just like that tree's extension of the all, that tree cut down and it becomes a house. but that house is still part of the all. Doesn't matter. Everything's in motion. It's just the way our nervous system and our eyes perceives this bitch. Everybody's got to stop fucking turning things into aliens so they can hate on them but still remain spiritual, because they don't understand. They're not evolved enough to understand that that alien that you think is fucking there, that is some bad reptilian, draconian, Illuminati, elite fucking masonry, fucking Adam Weishaupt, fucking banker, fucking Bilderberg, fucking whatever shit, bullshit, draconian, dragon shit, now eggs eating babies for fucking breakfast, bullshit, whatever that is you think it is, it fucking isn't. It isn't. I'm sure there's people out there that do some fucked up shit, but that's not what's happening. They let you run with that. If that was truth, it would be hidden, it would be suppressed, you wouldn't be able to find it. It would be so buried. And the fact that they let you do that so they can laugh at you whenever you fucking try to take them down. Let's say when these people do something terrible, like actually buy a bunch of people's homes, put them on the fucking streets so they can make more money. And you go to this prep conference and you start off by saying you're a fucking alien, fucking reptilian, dragon, fucking baby-eating motherfucker. You get laughed out of the conference. Because you're emotionally, and you're saying all this crazy talk that's never been actually beneficial. Whether it's true or not, it doesn't fucking matter. But it's not true. But you know what I mean? They let you have that, so you're so blinded by that you don't find the truth. And this is not an insult, because I believed all that stuff. I was there. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I had 4 kids in this fucking crazy world with all this shit. And it took me to where I am today. 5 years deep. 4 years. I'm 34. Started 29. Somewhere between the 4 and 5 years. Took me this long to get where I am, and I'm nowhere close to knowing everything or being all powerful and all that, but I know enough to know that creating these oppositions in the spiritual warfare, by talking about it, by creating anything from organic beings to archons to whatever, I mean, learn about the archons, learn about Sophia, learn about Yaldabaoth, or the demiurge that apparently is what Christians are apparently believing in. That's what the Gnostics, from what I read, believed. The Gnostics were against Christianity, and they got killed, a lot of them, because they thought the demiurge was some lesser god masquerading as God. They were worshipping this fucking thing, still technically to this day. You can talk to Yaldabaoth too if you do evocation and shit. Point is, Sophia was some archon, okay? She was the only female archon. She saw the real creator God after he created them for whatever their purpose was supposed to be. She saw him create all the shit she wanted to create too. But she didn't understand the rules. She wasn't involved enough yet. But she did it anyways. She created that fucking thing, Yaldabaoth. And he came up and he was the only one around. He looked in the fucking water, only saw himself, and he said, I am God. You shall have no other God above me, blah, 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 blah. And she was so sad and mad. When she was so sad and fucking mad that her creation was this abomination, she flash froze. It's like the Pandora's box story. Everything, all the bad emotions, everything fucking came out. And that's what created the universe around everybody, because she's powerful, but she wasn't told how to. Anyways, doesn't matter. But that's the story about Sophia. She's an archon. She created a god, and that god is what we've been worshipping apparently for 2,000 years. I'm not saying that story is real or false, but learn about it. It doesn't hurt to know it. It's one interpretation of what people used to use to figure this shit out. Then you can go the Jewish way, and then you can even learn more about the Christian way, but then you can learn about the Buddhist way, and the Islam way, and the Hindu fucking way, and the fucking Taoist way. You can learn all these fucking things, and you can put things fucking together better. But none of these are accurate all by itself. And even if one of them was closer to the truth than the other ones, we have no way to verify it. All we can do is learn a type of magic that makes sense to us. For example, I was saying the other day that the 7 heretic principles, the law of polarity is very important, right? I was watching Thunder Wizard's video yesterday. He was talking about, he was using Watchmen, which is a great movie. He was using Dr. Manhattan as a good example of what happens whenever he starts his new left-hand path and all the energy he feels and blah, 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 blah. I won't get into what I think about some of the things he said because, it's just my opinion. It doesn't matter. But, when people have to really, promote how powerful they are and all that, it's like, I don't know. You know what happens is people Jove, right? The Jove is a great storyteller. People that have a good Jupiter placement, like in somewhere like Gemini or whatever, they're great comedians, storytellers. They exaggerate a lot, Well, someone who exaggerates a lot is because they got a good Jupiter placement, jovial and shit like that. But the stories are exaggerated, you know what I mean? So, not that he doesn't necessarily feel that power, but it's definitely not at the extreme that he's saying, and that's okay. Like, I do that too. Fuck yeah, I've done that. So I'm not going to judge, but anyways, in there, he was talking about how when he first started doing this practice, how he was disconnected from human beings, and he wasn't, he didn't crave sex or food, or he was still a young man, so he had to stop, which is kind of like a little bit of a paradox within it, but it makes sense, because I was there. But it didn't happen the same way for me. So, and you just heard Frederick Xavier. What did he just say at the end of this video? There's a warning that comes with this. You'll stop being able to relate to what people feel is important to them. Things that used to be important to you are no longer important. That's what Thunder Wizard was saying. That's the law of polarity. It's a 7 hermetic principle. So remember how I said other traditions have different ways of saying it? Well, Thunder Wizard doesn't believe in the 7 hermetic principle, but yesterday he was literally explaining the law of polarity. How he was depolarized, that nothing else mattered except for the thing he was focusing on was his transformation, getting this power, whatever, okay? So he's kind of polarized when it came to that one thing. But when it came to everything else, he was becoming depolarized. Matter money, if he had a lot of money or no money, didn't matter. If he had a date or no date, didn't matter, None of that shit mattered. And as a result, that's the best state to be in to learn this stuff, because then you just take in the information. You don't judge it. You don't think it's bad or good, or, I'll do this, but I won't do this. You don't do none of that. But that's a good example of what I was talking about. Frederick Xavier explained the same fucking thing just now. He said the same fucking thing, that you won't be able to relate to people. That's you becoming depolarized. And I was there. And instead of me deciding on my own to just, snap out of it, I don't know how it happened for Thunder Wizard. And I'm sure there was something that happened that made it happen. He just didn't go into it, okay? So I'm not dissing him, saying it's horseshit. But same thing happened to me. But what made me stop, because I made many videos about this, you cannot be depolarized in everything. And the things you still want to be able to do, you have to be polarized in. That was the focus of a few of my different podcasts and episodes. Meaning, if you like skateboarding or something like that, well, if you get too depolarized in all things, you're no longer going to be able to enjoy that. So you want to maybe keep that polarity there. How do you do that? Well, you do spell work. You do rituals to make sure you don't get depolarized in these areas. I mean, there's easy fucking ways. You just gotta start thinking magical all the time, But for me, it was my wife. We started fighting a lot, over and over and over again, and she kept saying that I was just doing this nonstop and ignoring her. Well, it took a lot. And the ultimate thing was whenever I realized she was talking to another man and ready to leave me. I didn't know it was that bad. I didn't know I was so focused on this. I was so depolarized that I didn't care about anything except for learning and transforming. And it took the jolt of her about to leave and the fucking heartache that caused me, that I was in such misery, to fucking say, whoa, no more. She is more important to me than Magick. And so is my family. But that's not how I was acting. I was acting like Magick is the most important thing. And it's because I'm an extremist, man. I go big or go home. Or I go big or I don't do anything at all is really how I would explain it. I either do something a lot or I don't do it at all. There's no middle ground with me, you know what I mean? So if I'm getting depolarized, it's all or nothing. So that's one of the things I have to learn about. Saturn and Libra, Libra, the scales, you have to balance shit out, right? Well, I'm all or nothing. Well, Saturn's telling me, no, you got to learn balance, my friend. It's fuck, man. That's a hard lesson to learn. And I didn't figure that out till just right now, as I'm talking to you. This is why I say things. This is why I tell you, speaking and writing is a type of channeling. Because I never worked that out. I always assumed it was Libra, and we had to do it with my marriage, which my marriage had suffered, so it all made sense. But now I just came to the understanding that, because I've been saying I'm an extremist for a while, and you got to find balance, and I promote this almost in every one of my episodes. I say everything comes down to balance. Well, I just realized that, that's one of the fucking things I need to know. And it just came out just here. Verbal diarrhea. It just came out. I didn't choose any of these words that I'm about to say to you. This is how the channeling process happens for me. I'm not one of those people who goes, alright, now I am Yalvador, and I'm the god of this realm. That's not how it is for me. But sometimes that presentation can get more people. If I just come out here and keep talking and pretending I'm Corey LeBlanc, I'm gonna be full of shit, man. Who the fuck are you? But people believe there's another being that just took over your body, and you give them wise information, they're more likely to not judge you, because then they can separate it. Say, well, this guy's just a fucking piece of shit, but that's an enlightened being talking through him. So I'm going to still listen to him. Yet, it's probably still the guy like Cryon. Anyways, Cryon. Cryon, a magnetic service, blah, blah, blah. I used to listen to that guy all the time. I loved it. But after I started realizing what channeling was for me anyways, I started to realize that that might be part of the gimmick. He might be an enlightened guy. He might have a lot of good information inside of him. But if he just pretends to be himself, just a regular person, a Jewish boy from wherever from, I think it's in New York, but I'm not sure, then people might judge him because, you know, he's Jewish. And the things he might be saying might be Kabbalah-based, might be whatever. But if he separates from that identity and says he's some helper that's around everybody all the time, makes these predictions to come true and all that shit, then people can look at him in a new light and say, okay, well, I don't trust him, but I trust the person that talks through him. Anyways, well, that was just to say that I just figured that out just now, which is why I love doing these videos. But what the fuck was I talking about there? Oh, yeah. So that's a good example of that whole polarity thing, but that's how it happened for me. It wasn't until my wife scared the shit out of me by threatening to leave that I had to realize, okay, I got to find balance. If I want to keep doing this, I got to keep balancing, or else I got to quit it. And I did not want to quit this. And now we're in a place where she asks me to do candles for certain things. She's on board. But before all this, the further I got and the more success I got in the occult, the further she got from me, because it was the thing separating us, the thing she hated. So it didn't matter how good I was doing, she would just get more mad if I was doing good. And if I was doing bad, she would get happier because there's a better chance I would quit. Do you see what I mean? See how that polarity was going? The thing she hated was the occult, because that's what took me away from her. The point where if I was on a phone or a laptop, she was jealous of it. You know what I mean? So it didn't matter if I brought in money and I could prove to her that it was done through magic, she would hate it. Whereas now, after we broke that barrier, I promised to put her above all things and actually do it and have balance and listen to her instruction when she tells me that I'm going overboard again, and then I asked her to listen to me in return to how I justify it, and we'll have a good discussion about it, shit like that. Now we're at a point where she can accept my successes and is open to the idea that this stuff works because she's seen it. But before, she was so polarized against it, it didn't matter if she saw the results, she was just automatically triggered to hate it. You know what I mean? And that's how a lot of people are today. But I want to get into that. So, but that's just an example of how the 7 hermetic principles are in everything. They just might be disguised as something else. And that's how the Thunder Wizard said it. And it's the same way Frederick Xavier just said it. And it's the same thing I've been saying. So anyways, spell work, affirmations. I'll try to make that case, but I think right now I'm going to play the second video. Okay, so I played the first video. That was the introduction to the Mystery School channel. Now I'm going to play the second video for y'all. Okay, the second video is what is magic. And I want you to hear it from the man again. Okay, and then my conclusion will be after that. I'll try to wrap this all up in a nice, pretty bow. All right.
Okay, magic. What is magic? Well, it depends on who you ask. You might ask a stage performer what magic is. They'll tell you it's tricks, illusions, sleight of hand. Might ask a Christian, they'll tell you it's of the devil and to be avoided. And you'll understand why that's funny in a moment. But the most popular definition of magic was defined by Aleister Crowley, and he defined magic as the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will. And that definition is both accurate and misleading at the same time. See, it could be my will to have a turkey sandwich. I don't have to go to my temple and perform a ritual to get a turkey sandwich. I can just go to the fridge and make one. And you say, well, that's not magic. But it is magic. as defined by Crowley. I cause change to occur in conformity with my will. But see, that definition is both accurate and misleading. Because to the magician, everything you think, everything you say, everything you do, everything around you and everything within you is magic. And since everything is magic, it cancels itself out. Therefore, there's no such thing as magic. I personally don't even like the term magic, to be honest. It carries a lot of stereotypes with it. I might instead call it, I don't know, life? I might instead call it, I don't know, life? Maybe? You see, everybody performs magic, whether they know it or not. And that's why it's so funny when people say that magic is of the devil, because they themselves are performing magic on a continuous basis without even knowing. And ritualistic magic at that in churches. And I've heard it once said before that every thought is a prayer and every word is a spell.
Alright, so instead of listening to it all and trying to remember everything said, or write it down, which writing down would be the best because then I get more ideas. But I already said a lot, so I did a lot of shitting on anybody who believes in any kind of aliens or inorganic beings. And I know Ralph Smart's one of those people that say that, so this is not anything against him, okay? He is free to have his own beliefs and whatever he says. And fuck if I know, he might be right. But even if there is inorganic beings, which, you know, that's thought forms, really. If you think about it, we can create thought forms. So to be mad, so this is something I wanted to talk about. I'm glad I just remembered it. To be mad at Hollywood if they're casting out spells, warping our minds, we can get mad at that, or we can figure out how the fuck they do it, inoculate ourselves against theirs, protect ourselves against theirs, and use that to our benefit. See, one thing people gotta understand: voodoo doll first started off as hoodoo, a hoodoo tradition. You made a puppet. You made a fucking symbolic representation of yourself. And the things you did to this doll would happen to you. It was a symbolic way to talk to that part of your mind to create something on the astral. Okay? So you want, or just to get suggested into your subconscious. Same fucking thing. They both equal the same thing. Two different ways of saying it. Get enough energy on the astral, get something into your subconscious, moon being a sod, which is the astral, the moon being your subconscious mind, all the same fucking thing, they both connect. So, now that that's out of the way, the hoodoo doll, okay, hoodoo made that doll. Hollywood took that, and people say Hollywood and spells and all this shit. No. If anything, what Hollywood did was take something that works, okay? Now, a voodoo doll will work too. You need a sympathetic link to the person, but you get backlash. If you're going to send out negative energy, or not negative energy, that's wrong, but if you're going to send out harmful negativity, baneful intention, bad, I want to hurt people energy, if you're going to send that out, well, after you affect them, it's going to come back and affect you, unless you know how to transform that energy before it gets to you, which is something I talked about in the past, which I transformed some, but I didn't get all of it. I still got hit with my own negativity, okay? So, I mean, I don't practice baneful magic, period. That was my first taste in doing stuff like that, okay? And I was able to transform some of the negativity I shot to me, but not all of it. Anyways, so what Hollywood did there was take something that's a real practice, warp it into a bad practice. For what reason? Who knows? Maybe they wanted to make people think it's bad. Maybe they wanted to make every practitioner of hoodoo who did this practice seem like they're evil. When people see these puppets that people are using as symbolic representation to themselves, then these people, if they ran into these type of people that had that, they would assume they were crazy or bad. Who knows? But that's the same concept, okay? So spells, saying spells and spell work has got this evil, negative connotation on it. But technically, an affirmation and a spell, there's no difference. What are you doing? You're using specific words that have power in them, right? and you are using that to talk to that part of you that, or really you're not really talking to the part of you. With an affirmation, you're trying to put using your words and then eventually your imagination, but using your words and using the principle of creating a habit. So you create the habit of saying this affirmation so often. By doing that, you're going to create the habit of always saying that affirmation, whether you want to or not. At that point, it's become habitual. So you cracked your way into the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind, that rules habits. So by doing something over and over and over again, you just affected the subconscious mind, and you're starting to get that thought, that idea, that spell, that affirmation that you're saying. You get that cracked in there. It's like, it's why we use breathing to relax. Breathing is something you can consciously do, but it's also something that the subconscious or the unconscious takes over for you. So how do you come in contact with your conscious or your subconscious, get stuff to come through to you? Well, you start by breathing, doing rhythmic breathing. You do it consciously, and all of a sudden, whenever you forget that you're breathing, you just start breathing on your own. Your body takes over that rhythm that you already started, but your subconscious is right there, and your conscious mind at this point is now out of the fucking way, and the subconscious can tell you shit. So it's the same concept. So that's why an affirmation cracks in there. Once you make that affirmation become habitual, okay, then you just got into the subconscious mind that this is something you say every day. So not necessarily like, if I am grateful that I receive $3,000 every week. Something like that. You say that all the fucking time. Well, you're not creating. The first habit you create with that isn't you getting $3,000 every week. The first habit you create with that is that you are going to say that statement every day, so many times a day, whatever you ended up doing. You're just going to start saying it. Your subconscious is also going to know it and say it. You might dream about it, whatever. You're putting so much energy into it. But that's the way into the subconscious mind, okay? It's a long way to do it, but it's a way in, because the subconscious mind rules habits. The moon rules habits. So that's just your way in. But, you see what I mean? So you got in there, you got that, and then, that spell is starting to get and make an impression on the subconscious mind. The more you do that, and now it's habitual. So whether you have to, I better do my affirmations, you don't have to do that. Once it becomes a habit, you're just going to do it. It automatically takes over. That's why if you can get anything in as a habit that's good for you, I guess, then you're laughing. Because then the reverse is also true. You become a drug addict, and that's in the habit mind, well, you're fucked. But if you can remove that habit with another habit, you get that into your subconscious mind, and then you're saved. A lot easier said than done, mind you. I'm not pretending that's a simple process. I'm just stating a fact. But what he just said, every thought is a prayer. Every word is a spell. The word abracadabra actually comes from somewhere else, abrax or something like that. Carl Jung. I think I have a clip I can play about this, and if I do, I'm going to put it right about here. Sorry, I had to pause just in case for later, but I'll let that talk about. But abracadabra is, I create as I speak, or as I create, as I speak, I create. I don't know, I forget exactly, but I used to use that all the time. In fact, I forgot about that till recently. I had a bunch of little amulets with that shit on it. Award is for defense, amulet is for drawing stuff to you. So I had these things on me, and I think it worked really well. Now I don't carry them on me because I don't want to be speaking and just creating things as I go. Because if I'm talking to the guys, I'm in a different personification. I'm not the magician at that point. I'm Corey LeBlanc, whatever, right? So, especially when you work for people, you don't want to be perceived above them or like you know more than them or anything like that. So I don't want to be creating things that, anyways, doesn't matter. But anyways, what Frederick Xavier just said there, every thought is a prayer, okay? Your thoughts are prayers. I'm not going to get into that one too much, but every word is a spell. Now, if you say one thing one day without having emotion into it, not really much is going to happen. Put emotion into it once, not much. I still don't think it's still going to happen. You do that over and over again. You think and put thoughts in, you put emotion into your thoughts. You put those same emotions into your words, and then you have the thoughts as well. Then we're talking, you're doing spells against yourself, which is what I'm telling you. That's what Hollywood is making you do. By showing you voodoo dolls and you assuming every magical person out there, every witch out there, that's what they do. they make a doll of their enemy and they poke things, and that's why you're having problems. Well, you're going to keep saying that enough times that you're going to create your own problems. You're going to see somebody, you're going to project onto that person and think they're doing it to you, but really, your own mind is going to create your own fucking curse, and you're going to make it yourself. And this is how it works for everything. Now, it's not always you projecting onto somebody, but if you're going to go around saying you're going to have back problems, if you're not going to live past a certain time, you'll probably get COVID if it is real. You're going to get a disease and die. You're never going to be successful. Your kid won't make it to do this, or they won't never start learning, blah, blah, blah. You keep saying that shit over and over, what do you think it's going to do? You're making thought forms. You're making magic. Everybody's performing magic whether they fucking know it or not. And you guys know it. Whoever listening to me. So if you're doing that, you really need to stop that. You really need to start doing the reject, banish, deny process. And I don't think he said it yet, but I think he's about to say it. But I just wanted to interject why affirmations is a type of spell work. And spell work, casting spells, is not a negative thing. Casting spells, doing spells, not a bad thing. Now I know the song between Taylor Swift and Brandon Urie, which is the guy from Panic at the Disco. Never had somebody like me or something like that. In the middle of the song it says, "Hey kids, spelling is fun." Well, on the radio they blank out spelling is fun. In fact, I think on iTunes now you can't even get a version that says spelling is fun. YouTube it still says it, I'm pretty sure anyways, could be wrong. But to the point where, spelling, grammar, grimoire, all these words are very similar. People had a field day with that. And even I talked about that, but I didn't do it in a negative way. I said, this is like hints to our minds where these words come from. Now, we teach spelling in school to kids, and they learn how to spell and write, but no one actually knows the power in that stuff. They have no idea that what they write, and what they spell, and what they speak, and all these things have such tremendous power. They just have to focus on it, put in the programming that this is real, and this is how you do it, and then boom, they're done. But once again, chicken and the egg, what came first? Was writing and spelling and curse words and all that shit, that already have power? Or do we have to believe that that's real for it to have power? And more than that, see, people start believing that shit has power when they start getting scared of everything, right? But what they should do instead is say, no, I have the same power, and I have the power to choose who affects my own reality. And I'm not letting anybody else's curse words, swear words, anybody else's spells, affirmations, or anybody else's TV shows or movies or anything affect my reality. In fact, one of the first magics you can do, as far as I never actually did this, I had never done this, but I might go do it now. One of the first sigils or rituals you should do is make a spell, make a sigil, do a candle, whatever your type of magic is, make an affirmation that I am so grateful that I am the only creator of my reality. Now, sometimes having your reality intertwined with other people is good, because if your mom wants to give you money, well, if you're the only one that gets to create your circumstances and you didn't ask for money, then you might not get that money that she was just going to so gratefully give to you, right? I'm not positive, so maybe it's better left alone. But if you are really worried about that, you can always put a time limit on it. For the next 5 months, no one, I don't know. Just a thought. But this is how I think about my magic. I don't go by the rules of every ancient person who's ever said anything. Well, except for when they say everything's possible. But before we can start talking about like magical powers and different things like that, I think we need to simply get on board with the fact that being able to talk to that part of yourself, receive communication from it, and give communication to it, and have both those sides of you, parts of you, in communication, where you can start symbolically giving suggestions to that part of your mind. I think that's the first step. I think some people are born with talents. Like some people, you be around them and you'll just get healed. I think on some level, I may have something like that, or have powerful ancestors that do that for me. Because, like I said, my stepson had Alzheimer's. He no longer has Alzheimer's. My wife had cancer. She no longer has cancer. When her brother used to come down, he used to walk to and from his friend's house all the time. The only time he had a seizure when he was down here, because he's got a brain tumor, was a night he was at a friend's house drinking. He wasn't at my house. When he was here, he felt a lot better. I'm not saying I'm the healer. I mean, my grandmother was a powerful healer. If my grandmother is one of my ancestral spirits that are helping me out, then it would make sense, right? She was a healer when she was on this plane. She'd be even more powerful as a spirit. So I'm not taking credit for that whatsoever because I have no way to know. But I mean, like, comes to my stepson and my wife, and my dog used to have these bumps on her back. Now my dog's not doing so good. She's getting up there in age. She's like almost like 14 now. So, but I haven't been focusing on her, and she's still doing pretty okay. And it's getting pretty cold around here, and she's still running around. She's got a bobo in her paw that we're having a hard time getting under control. Though I'm not gonna lie, but anyways, I'm gonna take care of that. That's my next order of business. Just when you start working, it makes less time, and I have been really behind on doing a candle. I like doing a candle every night because it's something that's gonna manifest, and you get to a certain point where every candle you do, whether it manifests 3 months down the road, 3 weeks down the road, 3 days down the road, you just always have these manifestations happening for you, that were good for you at this moment. And I don't do polarizing things, it's always like I'm grateful for my financial abundant, or not really abundant, but my financial situation being in balance, and we have just as much coming in as going out, basically things like that, so that there's an even flow there. So if I ask for too much coming in, well then either I'm going to have a situation that happen that everything has to go out, or anyways. But so I'm never making magic that 3 months down the road I'm going to regret. Fuck, I wish I would have asked for all that money. Fuck, I wish I wouldn't ask for that healing. It's like, it's never going to happen. You're always so broad, and for the most part I ask for wisdom more than anything. That's probably like the number one fucking thing I ask for is wisdom and knowledge. Straight up. To be completely honest. So I think it's going to shut off, so I'm going to have to restart it there in a second. I might as well just do it myself.
And that's a fairly good starting point when it comes to beginning to understand what magic really is. So what's the deal with ceremonial magic if everyone's performing magic? Well, the magician knows how to control his magic by utilizing hermetic principles and higher laws to his advantage. That's it. As far as the basics go. You see, you don't have to dress in robes and perform rituals and get all the props and light all the candles in the dark room and conjure spirits to perform magic. The adept certainly doesn't have to. The adept can perform magic anytime, anywhere, within his own mind, and be quite successful at it. Now I want you to try something.
That right there is it's something that's debated. But I can attest to it that, and he's right about to say, where he just said, I just stopped him when he said, I want you to try something. He's about to tell you, I want you to try something for the next 3 months. I want you to treat thoughts as offers that you can accept and decline. And for me, this is the way I perform magic daily, change my outcome daily. Like from the point where I was winning on bingo tickets. I would get a bingo ticket without even doing a candle, saying I'm lucky on bingo tickets. And while I was doing the bingo ticket, if I get a thought that I was going to lose, I reject that thought that I'm going to lose, and I accept that I'm going to win on this bingo ticket. I will be hungry somewhere to be, do all my other stuff. Then I walk away from the bingo ticket, go do something else, get my mind completely off that, go back to the ticket, start scratching it while listening to something, and have my attention into that thing I'm listening, and not thinking about winning or losing on the ticket, which is very important. If you want to win on this ticket, you got to not be thinking about your spell that you just did. I mean, if you're not thinking about the specific spell, there's a potential chance you can still win on that ticket if you're just thinking about winning. But really, the best you can do is, like I said a few times when I win the $15, there's the 3 things on the bottom you scratch, they match, you win an automatic 15, or I think it's 25 on the $5 cards. Well, playing on my daughter, just scratching those 3, not even paying attention, and later on I looked down and I saw that I won down there. So when you're not paying attention, it's best. But that's the best way I can put it. Now, maybe there's other techniques and ways to perform magic. Maybe you literally speak things into existence. I truly believe that if you have honed and practiced enough and know how to, when you have thoughts and then you say the words as like kind of like your action, and you put emotion into it, all that shit. If you do all of that, and you truly mean it, and then you get it off your mind fast, you know what I mean? then I think you can do that. Also, like I said, I can go into my mind, like I can be sitting here right now, close my eyes, and I visualize myself on my altar doing a right, and then go do something in the next 2 hours, and my mind's off it, whatever I did in my right might manifest. I've done that before. But straight up, able to use reject, banish, deny, I changed the weather. I stopped rain from happening. I made the sun come out. And you say, well, that's coincidence. Maybe, but the forecast said it was supposed to be rain and overcast after the rain, but the fucking sun came out. So that's up to you to believe or not, but I'm telling you, there's power in this. Not to mention the guy's got 60,000 followers and is making three-figure salary now from his other incomes all combined there, not just from this. But I tend to believe what the fuck he's saying because he's doing pretty well for himself, man. Lots of testimonials on his channel you can follow and listen. Lots of success stories. I mean, it's just off the chain. There's no reason not to believe this. More than that, the more you listen to something like this, the more it's possible, the more you program your mind. Like the way I'm telling you, Hollywood programs your mind. You watch TV, you see people over and over and over again having a house and kids. That's the happy life. And you see people that are single and they're miserable and they're doing drugs and they have dirty houses and messy and they're unlucky and they get cancer and all that. Well, you program yourself that those things are possible. If you're alone and lonely, you're going to get cancer, or maybe you have a great life, but it's still a possibility of cancer. It's so random that you get cancer. I don't have that possibility. I mean, fucking Sid Jules right off the hop, but I'll never get that shit. So you might want to do the same thing too. But watching these things over and over again, it's symbolic things that your mind can only accept. Your subconscious mind only accepts. That's why with the conscious mind, you have to protect it. That's the job. That's called the ego, called the intellect, call it whatever the fuck you want. You're going to watch TV and movies over and over again. Now, you watch superhero movies over and over again, as long as there's no underlying bad, like people still dying of cancer, people still having to have a happy life by being married and kids and all that. But if you watch it over and over again for the powers and all that, well, then maybe you can program yourself in a different way. So maybe that'd be beneficial. But you have to be cognizant of what you're putting into your mind. So you're going to watch bad shows and bad meetings and big tragedies that happen over and over again. You can program yourself. Likewise, you can stop watching TV. Your subconscious mind will block it and say, no, I'm not going to actively put stuff into my mind that may or may not harm it. And I'm going to focus, only watch on things that are in line with what I want to manifest right now. Therefore, if you're using magic to manifest anything, putting on a ceremonial magician like Frederick Xavier, who teaches you how to use magic, tells you all the things that worked for him, and then you hear testimonials from other people that use his methods and became successful, it's just programming your mind that this stuff, you're just reinforcing it. Because then you're doing it, you're saying it, you're reading it, and you're listening to it. And then you're hearing other people doing the same. Even if it wasn't true, it would still work, as long as you believe it. So, and this is how you'd be able to program yourself to be able to use reject, banish, deny to your benefit. Now, I still think you could do that, and that's why you practice this for as long length of time he's going to tell you to do it. Because the more you do it, the more likely it's going to start happening, the more you put energy into this is how I want to control my reality. Every thought that I get, I'm no longer just going to accept. Because if you don't say anything and you just get all these thoughts that you're going to be poor, and people say, don't fight with your thoughts, don't do anything, just feel it. It's like, no, if you feel a thought that you're going to be poor, broke, and miserable, well then you're going to be poor, broke, and miserable. You're accepting it. Reject it. Keep rejecting it until the thing never comes back. This way you're training your mind that those are not the thoughts you want to have anymore. And if there's emotion that comes with that, try your best to change it. Now, sometimes it's not easy. That means you have something you've got to deal with. But if you start having this feeling, then no, I reject that thought and I accept that I'm going to be filthy rich. And if you can call into a memory that makes you happy while you're doing that, that will put you in a happy emotional state. So you can kind of change yourself from being in that fearful and be broken, miserable state to no, I'm going to be a successful fucking ladies man or successful fucking hot mama that's going to kill the game and have many kids. Fuck my age. Put that loving emotion into that shit. That's magic. And you're performing it in the moment. And then you go and do that in your altar too after, It won't hurt, right? Might as well. So this is how I've done and incorporated that. I'll let him finish that now.
Anytime you have a negative thought, I want you to treat it as an offer for you to either accept or reject. Obviously, if it's a negative thought, you're going to want to reject that. So you say, I reject that thought. You don't have to say it out loud. It's more powerful if you do, but you just say it in your head. I reject that thought. On the flip side, if you have a positive thought, it's more powerful. Obviously, if it's a negative thought, you're going to want to reject that. So you say, I reject that thought. You don't have to say it out loud. It's more powerful if you do, but you just say it in your head. I reject that thought. On the flip side, if you have a positive thought, you say, I accept that thought. And do that for 3 months. And start to see how much your life begins to change by that one practice alone. And it takes 3 months because you still got incoming crap coming your way. But after you reject the thoughts or accept them, stop thinking about it. Let it go. If they come back, reject them again. And by doing this, you'll start to condition yourself and train yourself to control your magic that you're already doing anyway, without the need for ritual and props and chants. Those things have their place and reasons, which we'll get into more a little bit later on. But you might say, how am I supposed to monitor my thoughts all the time? Well, just like anything else, it takes practice. After 3 months, it'll just become habit. And understand that this just isn't with thoughts. This is with anything that people say to you, anything you read, anything you hear. You might not be able to control your thoughts, or the things people say to you, or the things you come across, or the things you hear. But you can flip the switch between yes and no. You can certainly do that. And
that right there is important. So he says you can't necessarily control your thoughts, what comes into your mind, right? Things just happen. You see something and you get a thought. But you can certainly flip the switch between yes and no. But then he's about to go on to say that you can start beginning to take control of your mind. Because up until this point, you've been watching, you've been just going, whether you want to call it autopilot, you've been just going on, or whatever the case is, watching TV, whatever it is, whatever the fuck you want to call it. You're just all over the place, sporadic, you know? Maybe you're with a group of guys that all you did was bad things together, or drugs, or now you're trying to change, or maybe you were in a relationship after relationship, never getting serious, and now you want to change that, whatever the case is. Well, you were trying to change, but you're going to have thoughts and emotions and memories that are all going to be linked to the way your past was. And all the thoughts, the patterns that you thought previously, just because you want to consciously change now, doesn't mean your subconscious is ready to change with you. You have to guide that to change with you. So the subconscious, this is one way of looking at it, and I gave many different ways of looking at this, so it's not the only way I think is possible. But one way is, you have these memories, you have these thoughts, these patterns that you've been going. Now you're trying to steer yourself in a different direction now. So your subconscious mind, you're out there, you're trying to do magic, law of attraction, shit, whatever. You do all your rituals, you come out, you're in a good mood, and then all of a sudden you get thoughts like in the past, like, oh, I should go get fucking high. Or, oh, I should go, oh, I'm never going to be rich and shit like that. Well, you have a bunch of these thoughts in your mind because these are patterns that you've made habitual in the past. You get these thoughts and you would entertain them. Well, by doing this process, what you're doing now is breaking those habits and creating a new habit. So you're breaking the old habit of always assuming you're going to be poor, rich, druggy, no one's ever going to love you, you're always going to be overweight, whatever it is. And you're replacing that habit with the habit of I reject that thought and accept this thought. Now, you don't have to accept anything. This is the first part. He says, I reject that thought. Or I accept that thought if you have a good thought. Same thing. You get a thought in your mind like, oh, my spell's going to work. I love it. I can't wait. Instead of saying, oh, no, it's never going to work. That's probably bullshit. You say, yeah, no, I accept that thought before you get to the next part. That's a way of training your mind. So now, you still can't control the thoughts coming into your mind at any given time. But, and Frater says it later on, I think, or maybe even in this part, but what ends up happening is if thoughts are like spirits, which I've made the case for as well, and it's like they don't ever want to come around you. You know, sometimes you create negative thought forms that are around you that could be continuously telling you to think something. That's one way. Another way of looking at it. You know. So, anyways, by doing this practice, you can remove negative thought forms. You stop these old negative patterns, create good patterns. It's endless the possibilities and things this one exercise can do. Because you're stopping everything at the beginning, at the thought. Okay? Yes, you can take action opposite to your thoughts, but you don't want to inadvertently accept a negative thought and then just start doing an action that might be, you know what I mean? You banish that thought and then go do the opposite action, is what I would say. Banish the negative thought and then do the opposite action to really prove it. That's what I would say.
Control. Now, you'd be surprised how many people curse themselves by the things that they think and the things that they say, and also the things that they do. I was one of them. See, I'm not talking about anything beyond my experience.
I don't want to keep stopping Freighter, so this is the last time I'm going to interject. I think I made my point, but just on the last thing. See, I'm not talking about anything outside of my experience. So he's not going to come out there and start. He'll talk about a little bit of the hoodoo he knows. He'll talk a little bit about conjuration he knows, or evocation, or, you know, the Solomon stuff, or maybe even a little bit of witchcraft and chaos magic, sigil magic. All the stuff he's done, tried, and works. And anything he's done that hasn't worked. There's one book he refers to whenever he did some really good healing magic, and he says straight out, it's hit or miss. 50% of the time it works, 50% of the time it doesn't. Right? So, just the last thing, I know I'm not going to harp on it, but anybody out here talking about something they've never tried, from Thunder Wizards shitting on ceremonial magic or Western magic, to Ralph Smart saying that Hollywood is using spells, and then he'll talk about doing affirmations, which is a type of spell word. You know, don't be talking about anything that goes against that you haven't really done, or don't. You know, if you want to say Hollywood's doing spells, then that's fucking fine. Don't promote something that's, you know, using powerful words and then using them in a repetitive pattern to affect your mind. I mean, that's spells. You know, just another way of saying it, just a fancier way. It's like changing the word sacrifice for now offering. Sacrifice has negative connotations, so now we give offerings to the gods. You know what I mean? So we can enter the law of compensation. You know, if you put that on a candle, it's really powerful too. I don't always do it, but if I have the space, it's always like, I am offering this candle and incense to today's what, the sun, Ra, maybe not Odin, Apollo, Mithra, Suma, I can't remember anymore right now, but you know what I mean? As compensation for receiving $3,000 that I am grateful for. I will be hungry, so I'm going to be. That could be a spell right there. You can say that bitch every day. You can write that on a candle every day. You'll get it. You'll get it. I'm telling you. Right, sign your name. You'll get it. Anyways, but yeah, don't talk about shit you don't know about anymore. Uplift whatever you're trying to promote, but don't shit on shit you don't understand. And like, I get it, Ralph's not shitting on anything necessarily. He's not shitting even on spell work, I guess. But I just don't want a bunch of people thinking doing spells or witchcraft because it's connected to spells and the witch does cast spells, you know what I mean? I don't want people thinking that's all bad. Maybe people are doing that to people and it is bad, but why not do it as well? Why not take that practice, whatever the fuck they're doing, and then use it against them, dude? And I don't mean like send them, cast spells at them. I mean cast spells in your life to get the shit you want, to uplift yourself, to protect yourself so none of their shit can affect you. That kind of spell work. Do those kinds of affirmations. Do those kinds of candle magic or sigil magic. Do that shit. Would that be better? I think so. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'll let Freighter finish up, and but yeah, have yourselves a great fucking day.
I know one guy, I've known him since we were teenagers. Well, I was a teenager. You know, he was early 20s. And I talk to him now on the phone, and the guy is the most negative person you ever talked to in your life. I talked to him for over, I don't know, I guess an hour and a half, and not one positive thing came out of his mouth. And I pointed it out to him. And he's just, oh, yeah, well, whatever. But he spews negativity just constantly. And then he wonders why his life's shit. And I'm not talking shit as in just bad. I'm talking as in the most ridiculous things happen to this guy. That defy all odds. And it just blows your mind. But that's the magic that he's performing upon himself. See? Because everything you think and everything you say has a charge. And that charge is either going to be negative or it's going to be positive. It is either going to bless you or it's going to curse you. And this is just simple stuff, people. This is just simple, basic principles here. And I know a girl who's angry all the time, well, most of the time. Poorly aspected Mars. We'll get into that a little later on, but she has a lot of anger and violence returned to her. She took her kid to school one time, got out of the car, got hit by a bus. And I'm not talking shit as in just bad. I'm talking as in the most ridiculous things happen to this guy. That defy all odds. And it just blows your mind. But that's the magic that he's performing upon himself. See? Because everything you think and everything you say has a charge. And that charge is either going to be negative or it's going to be positive. It is either going to bless you or it's going to curse you. And this is just simple stuff, people. This is just simple, basic principles here. And I know a girl who's angry all the time, well, most of the time. Poorly aspected Mars. We'll get into that a little later on, but she has a lot of anger and violence returned to her. She took her kid to school one time, got out of the car, got hit by a bus. And I shouldn't be laughing, but as she's laying there in the street, an impatient lady who wanted to leave got angry with her for laying in the street, so she couldn't get out. So she got out of the car and started fighting with her. And she's the one that ended up losing in court because she was too argumentative. See, you got to get used to this idea that what you put out there is going to return to you. That's just Magic 101 before anything else. And it's amazing how many people don't get this. So you're already performing the magic anyway with what you're saying and what you're doing. So be attentive to what you're putting out there. And in the next lesson, I'm going to explain why this all works the way it does. And that's my cue. See you next time.